Shrewd, why you always so positive, bruh? Shrewd, why you think Tibs is right for the job? Shrewd, why you one day say let him cook, then another day you say, you know what? Knicks would be good if they make a move for an impact superstar. Why? It's not because I'm trying to be a predictor or Stradamus, but it's because I'm starting to have deja vu when I look at this team. So it's story time. Let me explain. I really began watching the New York Knicks around 1992. Growing up, I was pretty much watching all of the sports that my dad did. Something else I copied from my pops was reading the newspaper. Now, low key, I started learning how to read the newspaper in kindergarten. It's a light flex, but it's a true story. And in the 1980s and 90s, we would get newspapers delivered to us every day. My dad would always go directly to the back of the newspaper to view the back pages. He would read the sports, he would check out the horse races, and then he'd work his way back towards the front. He would always pull out the comment section and give them to me to read, and that was our shared activity. As I began to grow older, I began going directly to the back page to see the New York media myself and watch them creatively merge my father's sports headlines and cartoon caricatures. So now both my father and I could enjoy the back pages. One day I recall my pops making a huge deal about the New York Knicks and that they were signing a new head coach. He was so over the top animated about it, and he made such a fuss that I began paying attention. His passion, his surprise, his mixed reaction to a flurry of moves made me buy in fully and had me invested in the following story. And that this team simply felt like something big was about to happen. Now, if we go back to 1991, and I'm going to start comparing that team with ours, Dave Checketts became president of the New York Knicks at age 35. He came from Utah, where he became their GM at 28, so he was a hot shot. Checketts replaced a guy by the name of Al Bianchi, and he named Ernie Grunfeld as our GM, and he brought in Pat Riley, who was a 5-time championship coach, and this started the Ewing championship contention era. Now, if we look back 3 years ago today, Leon Rose was hired as the president of the New York Knicks. He wasn't 35 years old, but he was new to the role as well, so he entered with the same level of uncertainty. Leon will soon be hiring his GM, but he did hire his Knicks head coach, Tom Thibodeau, at that time, who was charged with the responsibility for turning this thing around, an abysmal team, and establishing a winning culture on the floor. Now, when we look at Riley's front offices, Pat Riley immediately made his mark on the New York Knicks. Word out of training camp in his first summer was that Riley was making the Knicks the most conditioned team in the NBA. Now, what did that mean? I remember hearing about 3-hour practices, limitless free throws, and him being a taskmaster. These were stories out of camp. The media ate this up by constantly covering all of the pros of this approach and also all of the cons. The proof was in the pudding, though, as that team came out of the gate as a terrific defensive team and won 51 games versus 39 games the year before. Now, Tom Thibodeau also immediately made his mark on the New York Knicks. Word out of his training camp in his first summer was that everyone would have a fair shot to start and get minutes. Nothing was guaranteed for anyone, and the best players would play. So this would prompt every player to come into camp in shape and be determined to impress their new head coach, who brought in a reputation as a hard-nosed taskmaster around the league, similar to Pat Riley. And the proof was in his pudding as well, as his team would prove itself to be a pretty good defensive team. Tibs' team would win 41 games, and that's also impressive because it was in a COVID-impacted season, good enough to win him Coach of the Year while leading that team to a playoff appearance, the first in more than 15 years. The team had won 21 games the year previous to Tom Thibodeau's arrival. Then, the New York Knicks front office began working, and I'm talking about during Riley's years, to help put together a series of shrewd and unorthodox moves. Pay attention, Knicks fans. Anthony Mason and John Starks both were undrafted, and Riley pulled them out of thin air. Everyone knows John Stark's story while he was bagging groceries part-time. The next few points are extremely important to all Knicks fans, so listen up. Over Riley's next few years, the New York Knicks began making tough personnel decisions that everyone questioned at that time when they were made. Xavier McDaniels was added to the start of the 1991-92 season in a trade, sending Trent Tucker to Phoenix. McDaniel gave them a star small forward to battle Michael Jordan, in addition to the versatile Anthony Mason. Now, McDaniel was only 27, but he had a bad back, which made him 75% of what he had been in the past. Then, after one season, Riley had former Rookie of the Year Mark Jackson traded to the Clippers for Doc Rivers and Charles Smith. Just like that, the Knicks had replaced their two stud young point guards, who they were trying to choose between. They had Rod Strickland at the time and Mark Jackson, and they replaced them with Doc Rivers and Smith, who was a quality big man off of the bench so that they could battle Chicago. Now, this is important to note. The Knicks began studying the championship Bulls at that time, and they started putting together a team that leaned into and complemented its superstar, and that they thought gave them the best chance to dethrone the Chicago Bulls. Pat Riley and the New York Knicks continued tweaking their recipe. Derek Harper replaced injured Doc Rivers for the Knicks' 1994 championship run. Herb Williams, a former star caliber center, was added as a free agent at age 34 for the 1992-93 center as a backup to Patrick Ewing and a big man off the bench. Then we brought in Rolando Blackman at 33 years old, who was added for the playoff run in 91-92. Now, if we look back at today, this is very similar to where we are right now. We don't have a superstar, but we do have two all-star caliber players who are young veterans at this point. We also have a slew of young rotation players and draft assets. Rumors are out there that the New York Knicks made a play for 33-year-old Paul George, inquired into Zach LaVine and OG Anunoby. Rumors are abound about the Knicks having trade packages that are surrounding each of their young players in the case the right move presents itself. They are locked and loaded and ready to pull the trigger. I love this. The Knicks have followed the familiar blueprint, super similar to what I remember. If they follow through with this type of Riley blueprint, the following may be possible. Riley's results were these changes, the Ewing glory years. During this stretch, the Knicks won 51 games, 60 games, 57 and 55 games in 4 years. In 4 years. The Knicks had the best record in the NBA in 1993. Trigger alert. It was during that year that Jordan's Bulls and the referees beat us in the playoffs. That was the Charles Smith moment. Charles Smith seemed to be fouled at least once on that final play in Game 5 in 1993, let alone all the calls that Michael Jordan got earlier in that decisive game. But that's neither here nor there. The Knicks also went to the finals in 1994 and were a jump shot away from a title. Starks had a three-pointer blocked at the buzzer of Game 6, which would have been the title winner if he made it. I know Pat Riley should have brought Blackman in, but still. So Knicks fans, how many of you would sacrifice your firstborn son for that type of run? In terms of these type of moves, who knows if the difference in one of our transactions, if you acquire a Ewing level superstar, as opposed to us already having that type of player currently on the team, I think you should stop tripping. When we have these discussions about trading good pieces we currently have for the possibility of acquiring a better piece, you have to spend money to make money, and you have to take a huge swing every now and then if you ever want to hit a home run. The Knicks are loaded up and primed to take a huge swing, and the NBA world knows it. So the question is, are you ready to be patient and trust in this front office? Are you ready to ride with them if they make a move? I am, because I've been having extreme deja vu and I've seen how this works. The difference from the mistakes that we made in the past to today is we all know how the Riley tenure ended. Pat Riley and Dave Checketts, they had a behind-the-scenes war for control of the team. Checketts ultimately won, and Riley ended up resigning. Pat Riley leaving us was a dagger to us Knicks fans. It had proved to be a turning point and one of the worst moments in New York Knicks history. Mother flipping Don Nelson replaced Riley, and then things fell apart pretty quickly, thus leading us to another need to reset, and soon it was on to rebuilding for the 1999 run. But what does Leon and Tibs have in store? Who will be the GM that comes in, and will it be Tibs or another head coach who will bring us championship experience that will thrust us into championship contention and or acquisition? I say trust the process. Trust the process. You gotta understand that it's clear that this front office has a plan. It is clear that the organization at this point is moving strategically, and they're moving deliberately towards something. We see it in their moves. We see it in the moves they're not making. I'm telling you, I remember it step by step when it happened with Riley. And this is exactly what the New York Knicks are doing right now. The players that we love may not be here. New York loved Mark Jackson. New York loved Rod Strickland. New York loved Xavier McDaniels. But they had to sacrifice those players to bring in players who took us to that championship competitive window. And I have a sense that we're on the verge of the same thing happening with this team. So what say you? What do you think? Leave your comments in the comment box below. I just wanted to get on and share that. Do you think we're at the verge of making a huge move? And are you ready and willing to do what it is going to possibly take in order to do so? Let me know. Keep this in mind. Same thing applies to life that applies to our team. If there's no struggle, there's no progress. And remember this, everybody eats at Nick's Deli. I'm Shia. I'm out. Peace.